What's up guys, and welcome back. This is a very special video. We'll be doing a review of the Nintendo Switch 2, including my final thoughts and review of the Nintendo Switch 1, actually, as well. So we will be talking about both consoles because, quite frankly, one console leads to another, pretty much. And it's very important, I think you guys get some context, especially for the new subscribers to this channel, as to where I'm coming from with Switch 2 versus Switch 1, and then where I came from with the Wii U to the Switch 1. So this will be time-stamped, so if you want to see just my thoughts on Switch 1, you can skip to there, or Switch 2, you can just see this as well. But let's get started with Switch 2, and basically so far so good. The Switch 2 came out on June 5th, 2025, as the direct sequel to the Switch 1. Now, it's been 8 years since the release of Switch 1, so it's been quite a long time. So for me personally, this was on my radar for many years now, actually, and it's been something I've been looking forward to. And the upgrade is substantial, like it's huge on the Switch 2. The graphics, the speed of the console itself, the loading of games, just like the navigation of it, everything is increased seemingly like 2 to 3 times faster, at least just from navigation. It's way faster, which is a huge plus. And the graphics in the games are on par, yes, on par with something like an Xbox Series S, and in some cases, like with Cyberpunk 2077, PlayStation 5, with some compromises here and there. And we've gone into quite in depth with the technical aspects of the Switch 2, so I won't do that much here. But suffice to say, I think this is the most impressive portable console ever made from any system out there in history, and it's also something you can play on your TV and still look good while playing on your TV. The Switch 2 Pro controller is much better, in my opinion at least, than the Switch 1 Pro controller. It feels really good to hold. The actual makeup of the build quality is extremely high quality. The buttons feel really good. The D-pad's improved. The buttons are larger. The analog sticks are a dream to basically feel and play. They feel a lot better and smoother than the Switch 1 Pro controller. This Switch 2 Pro controller is fantastic, and it plays like a dream when you play games like Street Fighter 6. Any fighting game feels great on the Switch 2 Pro controller. Then of course you have the new and improved Joy-Cons as well for Switch 2. It has the same build quality of the Switch 2 itself and of the Switch 2 Pro controller. Everything has a very high quality feel. The screen is better when you play on the go. It's a 1080p screen, has better picture quality, better vibrancy to the screen. I don't really play in portable mode much, but I did check it out and it does look a lot better than Switch 1. Just having a bigger screen and higher fidelity does look a lot better than Switch 1, including having the ability to have VRR in games like Cyberpunk, which makes the games look even smoother and even better to play on the go, which, like I said, is by far the best way to play Cyberpunk 2077 on the go is on Switch 2. Hands down, the best way to play it. And it also provides a great experience on your TV as well. So the Switch 2 specs and the tech aspect of it, I would say that is top notch for a console like this from Nintendo. It's actually better than what I was expecting. Actually, in real world performance, it's actually performing a little bit better, like in games like Cyberpunk already, having similar texture quality as the PS5 version, better than the Xbox Series S, including in games like Street Fighter 6 as well. And backwards compatibility mode is far better than what Nintendo said. Games like House of the Dead Remake now run at a lock 60 frames per second when they were a stuttery mess and just very choppy and have all these glitches and like pauses in the action. I tested this game, I tested many other games, and they run really well on Switch 2, basically like lock frame rates. You have Crysis Remastered, which had some frame rate issues on Switch 1. Those are all locked at 30 now as well. The game looks a lot better. Games run at higher dynamic resolution and backwards compatibility mode. So Switch 2, for all its features and all its like enhancements from a new next generation console, you are getting that with Switch 2 100%. Like, you actually can see and feel the difference between Switch 1 and Switch 2. It's like night and day when you see some of these examples. Just a lot of this stuff just wasn't possible on Switch 1. Now, in my opinion, the games on Switch 2 is actually better than the Switch 1 launch lineup. And the reason why I say that is because the Switch 1 launched with Breath of the Wild. While, of course, that was a huge selling game and a huge game for the series, it was also available on the Wii U in 2017. Mario Kart World, though, is a completely original exclusive game for the Switch 2, and it's a brand new sequel to the next line in the Mario Kart series. And it's a great game. It's actually really, really good. I played quite a bit of hours in it, and it's fantastic. It plays great, has new mechanics to the gameplay, brand new levels. It actually does something different from Mario Kart, which I really enjoy. I think this is an amazing, great launch game for the Switch 2, and it comes bundled with the system for $4.99. Lots of people have talked about the price concerns for Switch 2, but as far as the actual console and the bundle is concerned, I think it's a great price. I think $4.99 for what you're getting is fantastic. You're getting a lot of value here. You're getting automatic upgrades for a lot of these old games on Switch 2 that you were not going to be getting on Switch 1. The difference is really noticeable, and the price, I think, is right. Of course, other aspects of it, like individual game prices and things like digital, game key cards and the accessories, those are just a topic for another discussion. But for the console itself, I would say the price for what you're getting out of the box with the bundle of Mario Kart World is one of the best deals you're going to find. Like, honestly, it's really, really good. And then, of course, you have games like Cyberpunk 2077 is already pretty much the best third-party game at launch for the Switch 2. And Street Fighter 6 is probably a close second, for third-party games. Fast Fusion is really good. I didn't really purchase any other games for third-party besides those. But from what I'm hearing, Split Fiction is really good, and some other games are really good on Switch 2 as well. But for the mainstay of Nintendo games, it's going to be Mario Kart. Of course, you're going to be getting that on day one. And then in July, you're going to be getting, 1 month later, Donkey Kong Bonanza, which looks absolutely amazing. Yet another brand new original quadruple A first-party Nintendo effort on the Switch 2. Yet again, something that wasn't quite there with Switch 1, but we will talk about that with Switch 1 and our thoughts on that in just a few minutes. But for Switch 2, I think this is a great console for Nintendo. It speaks to me, actually, as a gamer, much more than the Switch 1 did. It has all the bells and whistles that I was expecting and hoping for. The online's improved. It has the LAN adapter, basically for Ethernet connection for your internet, right out of the dock. You can plug it right in. I'm connected via wired right now, and the download speeds are really, really good. A lot better than Switch 1. Now, the Wi-Fi, though, if you want to get into some cons about the Switch 2, the Wi-Fi seems to be pretty slow. Maybe a little bit faster than Switch 1, but the Wi-Fi is just not quite as good as I was expecting. And if you want to talk about other things that are maybe a little bit disappointing, the HDR output of the Switch 2 is kind of wonky. There's a lot of things you have to do in the settings to try to get it to work. And there's a video out there talking about the certain settings you can use to make it look good on a TV that doesn't have certain dimming properties for these like OLED TVs. Certain TVs have different darkening parameters than other TVs, and a lot of people have had issues getting their games to be looking really good in HDR on the Switch 2, myself included. And I use a 4K monitor, an LG Ultra HD 4K monitor for my capturing, and then I use another TV basically to play on the big screen, which is 65-inch LG as well, and they both have different properties in terms of their HDR. So I've had to do a lot of tinkering with HDR to get it to look just right. And in the first week or so of the console, I basically just turned it off because it was so much tinkering, and it looked really good with it off anyway, so I just went ahead and turned it off. But now I have it on. I got it kind of set the way I like it, and I saved the settings, and I think now it looks really, really good, but it took a lot of work to get HDR to work. So there's something there that maybe Nintendo can do better probably with HDR. I would say is likely this screen right here. When you go to the adjust HDR setting, this screen right here is not really correct for everybody. When you do the whole like sun versus sun brightness setting, and then when we go to next and you do this screen, adjust the brightness for the image, this image that they show, it's all going to vary between your display. So there's all kinds of different settings here that just don't really line up for everybody. It's going to be different for everyone, and it's just, there is no real sure blanket way to fix it. And you know, like I said, there's a video out there that really helps, that got me going in the right direction, but I've had to do a lot more tinkering with Switch 2 than I have had to do with the PlayStation 5, for example. PlayStation 5 HDR seems to just work, you could say, out of the box with very little tinkering, at least for me. Your experience may vary, but like I said, that's one little con I would say for Switch 2. The HDR is a little wonky, and the Wi-Fi is not as good and not as fast as I expected. So, but otherwise, the system is running really, really well. It's not making any noise. It's not really putting out that much heat as far as I can tell. I know it does put out heat, obviously. There's a fan on there, but I don't really hear it during gameplay. Haven't really noticed any like system getting hot when I play it. And another really cool aspect of the Switch 2 that I really, really enjoy, that I like way better than Switch 1, is the mouse controls for the Joy-Cons. I think that is a fantastic idea that Nintendo's implemented, and it actually goes back to the Wii days when they were experimenting with kind of like more PC first-person shooter type adventures with Metroid Prime 3, Call of Duty games, having the pointer on screen, having the reticle there, being the IR sensor being 100% accurate. You're getting the same type of accuracy with mouse control with the new Joy-Cons, because you're actually be able to simulate a real mouse with the sensors on the new Joy-Con 2. Now, the cool thing though that I really like with like games like Cyberpunk 2077, and I have lots of footage of it here to show you, is that you get the comfort of having the controller in your hand. As far as your left-handed Joy-Con, you can have all the, you know, analog stick movement, strafing ability, and all the button presses there, and just relax your hand without having to worry about a big keyboard in front of you. And then in your right hand, you have basically the wireless mouse that you can use. Yeah, it takes some time to get used to. It feels really, really good. And I do think this will be the preferred way to play Metroid Prime 4 for a lot of people, as long as you have a desk. And if you're trying to play it though, like on your lap, I would not say that is going to be a very good way to play it, most likely, because I've tried it playing with mouse controls on my leg basically, and it just doesn't work very well. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel as accurate or responsive as it would on your desk, which is where a mouse should be. So the Joy-Con mouse, I would say, is fantastic. It actually adds a lot more variety and innovation possibilities for Switch 2 than you may think. And I do actually think that is more innovative than what the Switch 1 was doing with its Joy-Cons, because a lot of that stuff was just copying what the Wii was doing with the whole, like, you know, shake the controller, and, you know, some of the rumble stuff was already kind of being experimented with the Wii as well. So I would say Switch 2, as much as people like to say it's not innovative, I would say it's actually pretty darn innovative for a sequel console. So overall, this early in the Switch 2 lifespan, I would say the console is probably rated around an 8.5 out of 10, with the chance of me coming back to this later and re-rating it, of course, because as we know, it's all going to be based on the games of what a console has. So it's too early to say what the entire breadth of the lifespan of the Switch 2's game library is going to be. Obviously, it's going to be massive. There's already a ton of games coming out that we know about. So this is based on the promise and the actual, you know, future of the Switch 2 being very, very bright. I think an 8.5 out of 10 is a very good score with room for improvement. There's some things they can do there to improve some of the aspects of the interface and how some things work, you know, like with HDR. Console itself, I think, is really good. And obviously there's going to be a lot more updates as we go along, but so far so good. I think it's great. I'm having a great time with it, and it's everything I could have hoped for, honestly. This early on in a console's launch cycle. I have never actually rated a console on this channel. This is my first time. I didn't rate the Switch 1 because I was waiting till the end of the Switch, and we're going to get into it, because I had a lot of issues with Switch 1 when it first came out. So now let's get into the Nintendo Switch 1. Like I said, Switch 2, fantastic so far. I think it's absolutely fantastic, but let's now talk about the Switch 1. Here's the Switch 1. I still have it, didn't trade it in, didn't you know, transfer my system over. I'm keeping it for, you know, comparison purposes if I need to. But Switch 1, for me, now just remember, guys, every system is going to be different for everybody. This is just my opinion. You guys are obviously going to have a lot of different opinions. My take on the Switch One may be very controversial for some people, especially if you don't know about this channel, especially if you're new to this channel. So, disclaimer out there, this is just my opinion. You're welcome to disagree, but this is not anything like going to be too surprising for people who've been following my channel for many years. And when you look at systems like the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985 versus the Super Nintendo in 1991, there's actually quite a lot of people that didn't like the NES, and they loved the Super NES, and they felt it was their favorite console of all time. Many people feel that way. I've heard many people say that. They just didn't like the NES for whatever reason, felt too archaic. They didn't like the 2-button scheme, and then they loved the SNES. Now for me, with the Switch One, I think this is a very similar type of take, okay? I did not like the Switch One. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. I did not like it. I did not like it since day one. And there's lots of reasons for that. And it wasn't just because it was like a lower powered console. That was definitely part of it. But coming from the Wii U generation, I was a guy who was 100% all in for the Wii U, which meaning I supported all Nintendo's first party games. I bought everything for the console. I supported as 100% I could. I supported it on this channel, and I was pushing the Wii U the best I could to get people to understand how great the console was. So if you skipped the Wii U and had no interest in buying it and only know the Switch, your thoughts on the Switch are going to be 100% different than mine, and that's totally understandable. So I want to make that very clear. The reason why I did not like the Switch, especially in the early days and the first few years of the consoles, because I felt, and I still feel this way to this day quite a bit, is that I felt that this console was actually a slap in the face, a direct slap in the face, bam bam, to owners of the Wii U. And why do I say that? Is because the games they were releasing on Switch 1 were already on the Wii U, and they were pushing these games as being system sellers for the Switch. And I did not feel that was good for me as a gamer, because I already had invested all this time and money in those games on Wii U. So games like Mario Kart 8 were already on the Wii U in 2014, and then Zelda Breath of the Wild, I was looking forward to that since 2014 until it was released for the Wii U. These were not original games released for the Switch 1, yet they were the games Nintendo was pushing as system sellers. And yes, of course, they sold great on Switch because the concept of Switch was really good. But for me, I did not feel that the Switch was truly a next generation upgrade for Nintendo. It felt like a sidestep maneuver and a continuation of Wii U. So you weren't getting the next generation graphic upgrade, you weren't getting new games, you were getting repurposed games, and not even remastered games for the most part, just re-releases on the Switch with some better frame rates and a little bit better resolution, but they were not really new games. So if you were to play Breath of the Wild on Wii U and Switch, you would not see much of a difference. Basically, some of the frame rates a little smoother on Switch and a little bit higher resolution in docked, but otherwise, if you were to show the game to somebody side by side, they probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. That is not a next generation upgrade, and it is not original. They were taking original releases from Wii U and re-releasing them on Switch. I had a huge problem with that, and I did not like that, and that also entailed, me to basically not enjoy the console as much. I wasn't feeling like I was getting a new next generation system. On top of that, here I have the this is the better battery life revision Switch model. When I first bought the Switch, it was the dark gray standard version, and I did a video on this and I got a lot of hate on it, but I still stand by it to this day as 100% the truth. That original Switch release, that gray model, the original release of the Switch, basically, the build quality was low quality. I felt was felt very plasticky, not very high quality build. Felt kind of flimsy actually. And sure enough, people were reporting their systems warping, like bending over heat, getting too hot, and the Joy-Cons, the infamous Joy-Con drift was happening like right out of the gate. Was a problem for the entire lifespan of the Switch. I called it out since day one on Switch 1 that I was extremely unimpressed with the build quality of the Switch 1. I felt it was the worst build quality of any Nintendo console, mainline console they ever had done, and I think I was 100% correct on that. They did improve it later on with the revisions and with the OLED, model, but I do 100% feel that those original Switch models they released were extremely low tier quality stuff, not worthy of the Nintendo brand. And I was not happy with that console at all. And they kept re-releasing Wii U games over and over and over again. I didn't really feel like we were getting a console that was getting Nintendo's best efforts because of that. I'm used to a console being released, including the NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, Wii U, and now Switch 2, having brand new exclusive experiences on the console at launch that are only on that console. Guess what? The Switch didn't really have that. They had 1-2 Switch, which was a mini game compilation, but that was not anything, people actually forget about that game. But yeah, that was some exclusive software for Switch 1. That was not some tentpole Nintendo IP first party release that they usually have their consoles launch with. So I didn't really feel that the Switch was really Nintendo's best effort, and henceforth, I really did not think the Switch was that good of a console because of that. I didn't feel we're getting Nintendo's best effort. That's not to say the Switch 1 didn't have some great games. It definitely did. And I personally started coming around more on the Switch 1 as far as like liking the console more later on in the system's lifespan when they released games like Metroid Dread, fantastic original Metroid game on Switch that's only on Switch. And of course you can play it in BC on Switch too. And Metroid Prime Remastered, fantastic game. Super Mario Wonder, fantastic game. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, fantastic game. All original software on Switch 1 that you can only play it there. I thought, now, like that is what we need more of on Switch, not these re-releases, okay? Remember, coming from a person who supported the Wii U, that's my perspective. And taking all that into consideration, there is no way I can possibly say, in my opinion, that the Switch is one of the best Nintendo consoles of all time. It's going to be the highest selling Nintendo console of all time. I totally get why. I understand it. The concept is great. The ability to play on your TV on the go, that is what sold the system, the name, the marketing, everything sold it great. But for me personally, I think it is actually the worst Nintendo console of all time because of the lack of original games at launch, lack of originality, and just a lot of stuff that were just low quality standards even by Nintendo's standpoint. So for me, Switch was actually the worst Nintendo console. I would rank it below the NES. So for me, I would say due to all those issues, the Switch is kind of going to be automatically the worst one for me, even though it has some great games. Super Mario Odyssey, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, another great game you can only play on Switch. And I'm not counting all the other games either, of course. There's lots of games that are only on Switch, but a lot of them didn't appeal to me. Like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I thought was bad. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 didn't appeal to me either. There's lots of games on the Switch 1 that were not made for me, okay? So I'm not saying they weren't good games, but they weren't really for me, so I can't really, use those as a ranking to make, this system, a little higher. In my opinion, a lot of these games just on the Switch were targeted to a different audience and not really for me. Games like Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, and a lot of these JRPGs, that really niche, are just not for me. So, like we talked about earlier, I felt the Switch 2 is a polar opposite of Switch 1. It may look the same, similar, system menu and everything, but in terms of what the system is offering, you weren't getting anything like Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch 1. And this is a great sign of things to come, and you're already going to be getting information of other ports coming to Switch 2, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy 16. All these games are likely coming to Switch 2, and you already have Street Fighter 6 on the console. Just a lot of games that appeal more to me as a gamer are already being announced for Switch 2. So automatically, this system is ranking way higher for me than Switch 1 was. It does feel a lot more like a Super Nintendo kind of vibe. For those who understand what I'm saying, if you just couldn't stand the NES but love the Super NES, that's kind of like where my mentality is with Switch 2 versus Switch 1. I definitely enjoyed a lot of the games on Switch 1, And just being the least, best Nintendo console, in my opinion, doesn't make it a bad console per se. I just don't think it is worthy of being better, ranked better than the NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, Wii U. The Wii U, despite it being the least selling console, had a lot more originality, a lot more creativity, and it had original games that the Switch got ported over to it. So it's really difficult for me to put it even over the Wii U because of that, because I had a lot of these experiences already on the Wii U. That's just my opinion, and you're free to disagree. Like I said, it doesn't mean the Switch is a bad console, just not one of my tops, and it's probably the lowest one in the rankings for me. I did actually enjoy a lot of the games on it though, okay? I want to make that very clear. Switch 2 looks to be the polar opposite of that. I'm very excited for the future, and I hope you're excited too, because I'm happy that we can be on the same page of Switch 2 and kind of share the excitement. I wasn't trying to be like someone who was negative about Switch 1. I'm a type of person that can't really hide it though. If something really bothers me, I'm going to start saying something about it. And a lot of stuff Switch 1 did really bothered me. So that's just how it is, guys. But yeah, let me know what you think about it in the comment section. What's your ranking of the Switch? Do you really like it, or do you like the potential of Switch 2 a lot better? Do you totally agree or disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section. But either way, I'm really excited for Switch 2, and I think we're off to a great start with the console. And I'm really happy that most of us are all on the same page with this console going forward. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Have a great day.